Alright, let's see what kind of sounds we can get going here. Let's go with... Let's try chill. See how that sounds. Alright. You guys should be able to see me. You guys should be able to hear me. Alright, so what are we doing today? People that want to hang out and do a little bit of connecting to our systems. We are going to play with... Let's see if we can change this to dark mode. Do they got dark mode for this? I accept the risk. Huh. Dark like sepia? That's fine. I was thinking maybe they had a dark mode for this tool. I like Zotero, but I also like some of these other tools. Yeah, I don't see any options for the styles. Okay. Well, we won't mess with that too much. Then we'll just leave this little guy down here. And what we're going to do today is fix up the home lab, maybe. Do a little bit of that. Maybe get a little bit of some other stuff kind of set up. If you guys have questions about Linux and systems and kind of want to know what we do around here, I can explain that stuff to you too. But start that rotation on. And then we're going to go pull up over here. Scholar.google. If you guys have never been in here, it's a pretty fun little tool where you can get in there and do pretty much whatever you need. I don't know why my settings don't allow for... Yeah, I guess we could play it this way. There we go. Dark Reader doesn't let anything else happen. It just sets it the way that it kind of wants to. So we're going to play around in here a little bit. Go pull some articles, maybe read some stuff and kind of review. If you guys have never done reviewing of articles, we can do that a little bit. I gotta fix this. Why is this at? Probably because I was messing with it the other day. Alright, refresh that. And again, we'll allow the rotation to start over here. So we can start going through that stuff. What else do I got going on over here? Let me check. Alright. Caffeinated CLI said, "Hey Scott, how does one start building out a lab like you have where others can use it?" Well, so Caffeinated CLI, I would tell you the model that I deal with the most, or that I work with the most, is a Bastion type entry. So I do something, so to speak to Bastions, I guess I've got some talks on it, but the way that I would tell you to start would be like NIST 800-223 would be a good start for most people, I think, which is kind of like the HPC one. So I'll link this to you guys. Yeah, so anyways, anybody else wondering, the question was like, how do you start building out and letting other people have access? So building out like a lab in general, or a home lab, is all about getting the types of systems that you want and the way that you want them to be running. So in my case, it was a few different servers running virtualization. I used XCP-ng. You're very welcome to use something like Proxmox, which is very common and will get you some good industry type experience. Some people may even just want to do virtualization inside of a normal Linux host. There's a pretty powerful set of tools called oh shoot, what are those tools that people do directly right inside of your Red Hat, or any other types of things. There's it's not called libavi, it's called I'll have to think of what their name is. But anyways, the point is, pick out the virtualization you want, figure out how you want to get the network set up, and then when you're ready to let other users in, like in my case, you're doing something along the lines of this typically, which is, I like this drawing. This is a drawing that I reference a lot with customers right here. So this drawing right here is a great one because what it shows is you focus on everything out here being kind of air gapped. Everything over here is not touchable by an external network. The only way to get to it is to come in through, in my case, I treat a login node as a bastion host. So, I expose a bastion node, I expose an SSH shell. People can connect in. When they connect in, they get jailed down into the specific login user in our case, and then sent to any number of backend nodes that I want them to be connected to, right? So that's kind of what I do. If you say, well, Scott, what's the specifics of how you build out a bastion node? That looks like this. Over here in Killer Coda, if we go to my stuff, or stuff that I've specifically written, excuse me. Down here, it kind of gets into building a bastion node right here. So I'll link this to anybody that would want to do it. This is my steps for building out a bastion. This is like how I do it, how I've done it for many government customers over the years. And this is kind of we'll open this image in a new tab. This is kind of what it looks like. The outside system is somebody out on the web. They hit your bastion system and get jailed. And then after they're a jailed user, they jump into some later further system along in the environment that in this jail, they only have the access to do a few things, and then they get kicked out if they try to do ratchet stuff or hood rat stuff. They just get kicked out, right? So that's kind of my way of doing it. That's also, again, the way I've done it for many government customers. It aligns with this type of way of doing things right here. But I think a good way to kind of look at this is through an understanding of like how high performance works for this. I mean, HPC and supercomputing is huge. So Dai over on Twitch said, is Nagios still being used nowadays? Yeah, people are still using Nagios. I would say most, it's Nagios, Nagios, but I would say most people, though, are doing the more modular, feed everything into some type of time series database and then put it over. That tends to look like this for people that are like, what does that kind of look like? That tends to look like this. This is a very common model that I try to apply to most everything. Something along these lines, right? You've got a middle storage tier. You've got ingest coming from any servers with any number of agents, and then you're typically showing people and presenting with Grafana or some other type of tool like that. Yeah. Caffeinated CLI. That's the same thing with us, right? Like we just want to do hood rat stuff with my friends and smoke. That's from so people that don't know, that was from a kid many years ago that showed up on a news channel because he was like 8 years old and he stole his grandma's car, and then it got worked into kind of a cultural show called the Boondocks. So yeah, he's like, I just want to smoke with cigarettes is what he said. But he said it like really kind of funny, and I don't know, it's a great reference. But ingest, storage, and presentation are our tiers, and we can do modular components within these. So some of you guys that have seen like how I do Grafana with Loki and Promtail, or I use Prometheus to scrape from Node Exporter and then feed it back to Grafana. These are all things that we can do within our... And it's not that Nagios is out. It's just Nagios does all this in one big monolith, and it can kind of get hard to maintain, hard to manage for people because it's not modular, right? And a lot of times as engineers nowadays, we try to do things as individual component pieces, and we can update Loki without having to update the rest of it. And we don't like with Nagios, we used to have to do this tool called like NRPE, and then now that's one more agent we have to think about. And maybe we didn't want agents, but in this case we do have agents. But there's just a lot of things to think about in support models and how that kind of stuff works. So Nagios is still being used, yes. There's also forks of Nagios. There's other tools that are based on that same thing. But for me, I do not deploy Nagios. I haven't deployed Nagios professionally for over 15 years. I do this kind of model. Something with the component pieces of this. So Net data. Yeah, I think somebody showed me net data, and I thought that one was kind of cool. I hadn't really used it though, besides somebody mentioning it one time on stream, I think. So this is kind of my model of doing that kind of stuff. But if we come back to Google Scholar, so hopefully that answers your question. And then, this NIST standard is a good one to kind of understand. I'm not going to do the lab in Killer Coda right now, but if you were going to do it, it walks you through how I build out when I go and build these. And then if you said, well, Scott, I want a little more, I need a little more like seeing it, I would tell you come over here to our bastion and air gaps. So this lab right here. And then we kind of go into it more here. So if anybody was like, hey, I need a little bit more, then start right there in our that's in our free security engineering course. And this will walk you through like what bastions and air gaps are. And then it'll talk to you about some of the different component pieces. And then you can see my lab. If you want to see me go through the lab right now, you can go watch this YouTube video, which walks you through that lab, right? So, hopefully that gives you some semblance of how I do it. And then other than that, I would say just kind of stick around. This is what we build out. And Caffeinated, if you get stuck on anything or if you need any direct help, let me know down in Discord, and I will try to answer it as best I can. I tell you guys this all the time. If I'm doing something, if you ask me out in Discord how to do something and I can show it to everybody, I will always do that for free, right? If I have to do something like private, not that Caffeine's asking for this, I'm just saying if somebody asks me to do something private, that's when I get in trouble if I don't charge people, right? The wife will be like, you can't give it all away for free, and I'm like, all right, but if I can just hang out with my friends, I'm allowed to do whatever I want. I'm just kidding. Actually, it's funny. The wife went swimming at one of her friends' houses, so I am just hanging out until we do dinner here in a little bit. So, I did get an invite to swim. I was just like, I'm going to stay at home in the air conditioning because it's like in the high hundreds in Phoenix right now. I think it's like 110-ish, or somebody showed 118, but I think that was just what his car was reading out on a blacktop somewhere, because I'm looking right now and Phoenix says it's only 107. 106 it says now. So yeah, that's terrible, but that's not like the worst that we've ever had out here. We get pretty hot. So let's go with I have it in our title that we're just basically doing some stuff. The tooling, like the workflow that I like to use, I use a tool called Zotero. I think Zotero is a great tool for pulling things out of like whatever system you're looking at, or if you're looking at a PDF and you want to extract out who the authors are and these kind of things. So we're going to go look at probably some articles here and try to find some stuff that's maybe similar to like what I've been working on or talking about for my dissertation. So I have a couple of different, I'm not locked in on my dissertation yet, guys. The topic I had been looking into was a thing that we called knowledge, attitude, behavior, which is called the KAB model. And it was dealing with how knowledge affects attitude towards like security situations, and then how the attitude affects the actual behavior towards how you would deal with some kind of activity. Also, where Lily went back to the in-laws yesterday, so I'm going to close down LilyCam. We don't need LilyCam right now. And I have general work I have to do here. I have some stuff to draw out for customers and stuff like that. So I have the paid for Excalidraw now. I'm paying a few dollars a month or whatever for that, which is kind of nice. You will get a lot of free stuff out of Excalidraw, but you can also pay for it if you want to just have nice little kind of drawings of what's going on inside of your environments or whatever. This is actually the homelab environment here. But I broke Werewolf yesterday. While we were all hanging out, I broke Werewolf, so I got to get that back up and running. So there's that kind of stuff. I'm surprised you don't self. I actually did think about running my own Excalidraw. You know, the reason I didn't is because there's some fun little tools out here inside of Excalidraw right here, where you can do like some AI stuff, and that doesn't come with it when you run the self-hosted version. So John Jones said, surprised I don't self-host it. That's actually the reason I didn't, was some of these fun little things that I thought would be cool weren't there, and I was like, all right, fine, screw it, I'll just let them do it. So it's 98 in Raleigh with all that humidity. But humidity, yeah, 42 is pretty low. We stay pretty low here too, but man, 98 with any kind of high humidity would leave me crying. But I wouldn't know that I was crying because I'd be sweating so much. So yeah. No, Kevin, I definitely did see. Actually, they mentioned over on Twitch too. Is like, yeah, you can run XCPNG. You can run Excalidraw yourself. It is open source, guys. I figured I'd toss them a nickel because they do have a good tool, and I liked some of these other options that they had, and I am going to try to use them for some of my presentations in the future. So I will be messing with that kind of stuff. So, all right, yeah, we do got to get the home lab working again though, because I did definitely break big time, guys. I definitely broke the werewolf last night. So 90% and 81 degrees. That sounds terrible too. John Jones said it had a nice plugin with Obsidian. Oh, nice. All right, so let's go look up. Let's go. Let's see what writings have happened here. One of the cool things about the scholar type stuff is you can come in here and you can say, I want things since 2021, because if my dissertation's going to be done by whatever time, I would need the things to be within the most recent relevant 5 years, right? So I can say since 2001, I can change this here and say, sort by date, and then say, since whatever. And then I can come in here and find when these things were published and go read about this. So I just gave a generic systems engineering integration. I could also be using my library from the college for this, but I'm just kind of doing it on scholar.google because anybody has functions, anybody has the capability to go read any of this stuff that they want. So, I start coming down here and looking through. Maybe I'm not zeroing in on the things that are, interesting to me. So I might go ahead and change this a little bit and go click on some of these other ones and see what these people are saying. So let's say since 2021. Model-based systems engineering, that's a newer term for me. Evidence from literature. So when we look at articles, right? And typically when you look at an article like this, it'll have an abstract, and then sometimes you have to pay for it. However, if they have the PDF over here, you don't typically have to pay for it. It'll just be right over here. Let's also see, you can see how many things have cited it, which is nice because then you can kind of see, I don't want to say popularity of it, but kind of some of the weight of it, right? And Too Big to Fail, how's it going? We are not working too hard, right? It's Sunday afternoon. Sundays are normally for labs, but I didn't get on this morning. So now we're just doing some of my academic stuff. I did sign up for my next college class too, so I'm only about 5 away from finishing. I'm really currently just all but dissertation as far as that goes, or I just have to clean up my dissertation and finish writing it. So that's kind of where I am as far as like the classes I'm taking are just about writing my dissertation. So there's not really too much else going on right there. Let's see, model-based engineering. Let's see what these guys have to say. So we might pull up the PDF here. Like I said, the PDF, if you have it, it'll just pull up the PDF for you to read. We can see what's going on here. Submarine Warfare Federated Tactical Systems is Combat Systems of Systems product family. Okay. They're giving us a lot of terminology up here. Source lines of code, over 10 million, all right. As well as commercial off the shelf. So typically you'll see commercial off the shelf as opposed to what we call FOSS, which is free and open source. Those are terms that you kind of have to know, especially in the defense industry. They talk about document-centric systems engineering and model-based systems engineering, so that's good. And then a little solid evidence in the literature for positive return on investment. So when we look at any article, right, for a dissertation, there's a couple of important things to note. One, is it peer reviewed? So this is from Lockheed Martin, Manassas, Virginia, but was it published somewhere? It was received here, and it was accepted on June 2021. It was published by Wiley. Wiley is a like a book publisher, so this is probably not hey, look, it's an open access article. It's very likely that this is not peer reviewed, right? So this is probably not a peer reviewed thing. So in that sense, it's not going to be usable in academia as far as like a dissertation. And then there's one other very important thing that becomes part of the discussion here. As we look at this, they were discussing literature-based review, right? Right up here at the top. They said at that time there was little solid evidence in literature for positive return on investment. So they are doing some type of thing. But let's go down to their conclusion, right? We got to jump around a little bit when we read things. And one of the things that we might find here as we look at their conclusion, they've got some numbers, they've got some information, but the question is, did they actually, here's a conclusion, there's a 18% reduction in cost of interface requirements and 18% migration of defect discovery and removal of platform to lab testing quantifies this, right? But what I'm saying here is, as we look at this, is did they actually do their own analysis? Did they collect data themselves, or did they simply just do like a literature review? So let's go look at, typically we look for the word methodology, right? So look for the word methodology. And we're going through requirements database, took an average of that many more per requirement. 9.9 hours per requirement. I don't care about the methodology. They're talking about methodologies of this. I want to see their methodology in their paper. Right? I mean, that's like a platitude right there. As such, any engineering methodology that reduces defect introduction or moves defect discovery to earlier phases where eradication is cheaper will result in significant development program savings. When I say something's a platitude, I mean it's high-minded talk that doesn't really say anything, right? That's what I'm saying right there. It's that's like saying by doing things cheaper you save money. Well, fuck yeah, we know that. All right, anyways, let's keep going. Also, one thing is when you find good articles, the references lead you to other good articles, right? So a lot of times we might take this and say, this is a good start, but really, research data are not shared due to commercially sensitive nature of the accounting records upon the... All right, so here's the thing. They did do their own analysis, but there's no data availability for it. So that's going to make a lot of this harder to reproduce. Obviously, we're not doing our own study of that, but there are interesting things that might come up, and then there's interesting things here that we could then go dig into more, right? A lot of the ones that are interesting are any of these DOI numbers. DOI numbers always mean that anybody can pull it. So if I want to see this model-based requirements engineering architecting for system requirements with stakeholders in mind, I can go pull this up right here. This DOI will always return that paper from anywhere, right? Now, they may charge you for it, right? There may be some costs involved with it, but a lot of times, one of the nice things about this is you take this back over to your Scholar, your Google Scholar, and it's possible. This is Feng. Hold on, let's see. Where's that guy's name? Mordecai Yai Dori. Was this one? No. This one does not show up in here. So it's fine. Not all of them do. But typically you can at least go get any of this interesting information as you search things. So if you do much with PDF, Sterling PDF is another one you can self-host as a container. Will let you do things as PDFs that Adobe will not convert, and so much more. Nice. Kevin, I probably should do that. The thing I thought about running locally at home was that latex tool. What's that one called? Because I thought about writing my paper in it because it's similar. It's all latex and markdown. But what's that one called? I've shown it on stream before, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, yeah. Self-hosting things like that are always good. All right, so let's see what else this guy was looking at here. And while this is interesting, this is probably not something that's going to be directly related to my dissertation, so I may move away from that and not actually save any of these type of things. But we might do systems engineering, and then we might say, let's go framework. Let's go look at some security frameworks around this, right? And we've got some newer ones. Again, we can still filter by the year since 2021. And there's a lot of people, man. A lot of people in my different... Overleaf, that's exactly it. It was Overleaf, yeah. Overleaf is one that my buddy Ben showed me because he was working on that for his... he's getting his PhD in econometrics, which is just a field of study of economics, right? And he's all but dissertation right now, too. But there's some good different types of frameworks and other things that might show up here that while this is probably, like if we go look at this article here real quick, this may not be, so we look at it, this may not be research-based, right? Like this might not be empirical. However, it probably is very good from like a picking up keywords and talking about different topics and that kind of stuff on the subject. So it's that kind of stuff. Kevin, you said it's very lightweight. Latex is not something you want to go back to. Yeah. But it's I'd pull it up here. Overleaf, and Overleaf is also it's got its own. It's open source as well, so you can run your own stuff. And it's just cool because it's like your code editor looks like this other one, and then your visual editor looks like this, right? And it shows you exactly how things are going to be pumped out, and then you can put complex stuff into it. So there's interesting stuff over there. Anyways, all right. So I like to start with our abstract. What is this thing talking about? Big data operations, talking about how security plays a role. They talked about an Apache Hadoop stack use case, which Apache Hadoop tends to be kind of like what we call big data, or Apache Hadoop has all of these things in its ecosystem for people that don't use it. It is Java based under the hood. It's got its own file system, Hadoop HFS, so it's HDFS, and it's really interesting. I used to support it quite a bit, and I've run it at a few different companies over the years. Turn this music down a little bit. What's going on with this music? This is not as chill as I would have thought it was. Hold on. We're gonna go get... Hold on. How's this? Hopefully this isn't too... Alright. This is chill pop music. Maybe this will be a little more... A little less of that, like... throat vocalization or whatever the shit I was just listening to. I don't know how much you guys can hear that. It doesn't look like the sound's up very much on the desktop, but I like a little bit of ambiance while we're sitting here. All right. So, do they talk about this? They are using the scientific notation method, so they're not using like MLA or anything, which actually doesn't matter to me because I can convert things to MLA later. Sorry, MLA. I use APA formatting. Sorry. Dissertations are mostly written with APA, but what I mean by it being scientific notation is they just throw the numbers after, and then you get everything at the end. So that's still kind of useful. Let's see what they say here. Big data, big cloud. They're just defining some terms. They've got some things that they're kind of just drawing out, but not really what I would call super academic there. Let's see what their methodology of this. Song's also gonna get me. too riled up. All right, we'll give it a little bit of time. See how it shakes out. Talking about cloud security and the domain. By the way, if any of these are interesting to you guys, and you're like, hey, can you link those? I will. If you have any of these that, I guess what I could do is just keep track of them all. Well, I'm kind of just grabbing the ones that I want, but I could just grab all the stream ones that we do, and then post them later if people are interested down in the Discord. So preparation, initialization, examination, and selection phase. So they're talking about how their model kind of works. They've got some nice abbreviations for it. Kind of seems like a bit of a client security, service delivery, bunch of terms. All right, I'm gonna go to the bottom. I'm gonna go to the conclusion. That stuff's less than interesting to me. Summary and open challenges. See, so there's no empirical data. There's no things studied here, right? As far as there's good information, guys. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to shit on a paper here. This is wonderful. This is just not something that's useful to me academically, right? This would be something that could be part of like a literature review, or if you were doing something directly related to the cloud or cybersecurity, you could reference this, right? But as far as like a foundational piece of like that you might build, so with the dissertation you have to define a problem space, and the problem space has to be well defined from other academic work, and the academic work that defines a problem space has to be empirical in nature, meaning it has to pull in data and look at data. This is much more of like a summary, if you wanted to call it like a almost like a survey of things. Talk about open challenge. So this is a future. It's a perfectly fine piece of work. It's just not the type of work that I need, right? And which is interesting because typically things in IEEE are based on studies that are done and looking at actual frameworks and packets and that kind of stuff. We don't need urban water systems. Security decision, how to prepare security by design decisions for industrial control systems. This might be kind of interesting. This comes directly from a book. It's not cited much. Let's see what this looks like. Let's go look at this. Unusual traffic? What? I am a human. Let me in. Here we go. Abstract security by design for industrial control systems, ICS. Right? They like to throw a lot of terminology up at the beginning. Dictionary is a bias for or basis for creating human readable notations for security relevant information in future work. So while this is going to be interesting and could be something that I reference, this is not the type of thing that would actually be what we would call like foundational to some of the stuff that I've done, or what I'm working on, right? Let's see if we can find. Let's see if we can find. So this is measurement level of information security awareness for employees using the KAB model, which is that. Again, we've talked about knowledge, attitude, and behavior models. So this will be one that's a little more interesting to me, right? And let's make sure that it's not one that I already have. I'm pretty sure it's not. But if I move this over here, this is actually off my dissertation here, part of it. Let's see. So they did, in this case, it looks like they did collect some data. They did some data validation, which is good. They did some analysis of the results around knowledge, attitude, and behavior of these different things, and they show the total awareness based on the Kruger and Kearney weight scale. So they show the scale that they used over here, right? So come down here a little bit, and conclusion of future work. Final analysis showed that the level of information security awareness for employees was at a good level with a final score of 80.82. Even though it belongs to category, it does not require action. There are dimensions that in some of the focus area variables that have an average value, namely internet use, social networking, instant reporting, and mobile computing. Okay. So what I can do with this, check this out. I can go to my little Zotero connector and say, I want to throw this in my dissertation section here, right? And it will immediately pop up right here. Here's my measurement of level of information, which is what this article is about. But then if I needed to, right, if I were going to cite this is one of my favorite things about it. We create a bibliography from it with the APA 7th edition. And I should then be able to come over here and immediately just throw that in, and this would be a write-up. This would be an acceptable. Now we'd have to fix the formatting on it a little bit for APA, but there's the measurement level of information security awareness for employees, and it's from 2022, so it's within my window. I'm going to probably be finishing my PhD in early 2027. I don't think I'm going to get done in 2026. I could try, but I don't think I'm going to. And now I have a working, what we would call that so anyways, and then here's the other cool thing. I can double click on it and it'll open right here, so it actually stores the PDF for me as well. So this is why Zotero is such a powerful tool for you guys. And then another thing is I can start to come in here, and based on what's in there, if I studied, like if I went to KAB, this would limit it down to just things that actually have that KAB model involved in them, right? So as I'm studying or reading a little bit more about that knowledge, attitude, behavior, and I want to see what works, because here's the thing, right? And this is a thing people that want to get into academia maybe don't know. When you're done with your dissertation and when you're done with your doctorate and you have your PhD in hand, you can go study whatever the F you want. You want to get a PhD in systems engineering, and then you want to go study the resonant frequencies of hard drives that are over 30 years old. You can do whatever the hell you want. But when you're working on a dissertation, guys, you have to work in a problem space that's predefined by literature. What does that mean? That means that all of these things that I read about or do or get in here and look at, I have to kind of work around, and it's almost like you're putting the next like few bricks down in like pavers on like a long road. You're adding to what's called the body of knowledge for that area. So you're identifying a problem that hasn't yet been really examined by people, and then you're going in and you're doing that. So my point in saying that is everybody thinks, oh, you're going to get to your doctorate and then you're going to do whatever the hell you want, and that's not true. You are going to slowly work on something that's just further along than somebody else. And then after that, if you want to be some eccentric scientist like everybody in the movies, studying, using rat brains or whatever for the next storage area, whatever, you can do that. But you can't do that in your dissertation, if that makes sense. Well, unless you found that people were stuck somewhere, then you could do that. Let's go look at the impact of training sessions on physical security awareness measures. Let's go look at this one. I'm interested in this one. So, accept all cookies, sure. And it says that it was conducted to examine the associations between three dimensions of employee security awareness by use of a survey. Right, so now with surveys we've got built-in instrumentation happening. So now we can start to talk about, when you're doing, this is the other thing about dissertation, if you're using like quantitative methodologies, you have to use stuff that's already built. You have to use some type of methodology and instrumentation that somebody else has already defined and used. You can't go off and just build your own stuff. It's almost like you're fighting with like one hand tied behind your back or something. It's a weird thing, but that's the way it kind of goes. Let's go look what this says. How to handle them. They start referencing some other things which might be useful. Again, that's the other reason we go read through these things, is to go dig in and find these other things that we can reference. Researchers have experimented with different learning mechanisms. Sure. Security awareness program. We're trying to figure out, knowledge, attitude, and behavior. This is a very common one, right? And do I have these guys? Let me see if I have this. Alright, anyways, I think that's just linking back to the same doc. Let's go see what it says. A lot of times we read the abstract and then the introduction. And then for me, so this is going to be, since they have a hypothesis, let's read what their hypothesis is. Interconnectedness between 3 dimensions of security awareness, which is, again, knowledge, attitudes, and behavior. 3 hypotheses were proposed. The more knowledge about security procedures and policy leads to a better attitude, sure. Better attitude leads to more secure self-reporting behavior. I think that's probably fair, but they got to prove it. And more knowledge about security procedures and policies lead to a more secure self-reported behavior. Okay, so they took this a different direction than I've seen this done before. So this is going to be interesting to see what they say. So they had a questionnaire. So now they did collect data. So this is an empirical study, right? This is important to note. It's also in Science Direct, which means it's definitely going to have been peer reviewed. So that makes this very useful to me, right? Come down here. They use the Likert scale, which is a typically something that people are, this is a proved instrument. And Likert scales are just a way to take subjectiveness and turn them into objectiveness. You use them all the time. If you've ever seen, like, press 1 for low, 2 for medium, 3 for high, or something like that, typically Likert scales are 5 points. But sometimes they're like 7 or something like that. It really just depends. But yeah, this is good. I like this. Data analysis, how'd they do it? They use an M+8. I'm not familiar with that model, so I might have to look at that. And then they did a root mean square error of approximation. That's fine. With a standardized root mean square residual with CFI ranges from 0 to 100, and a 0.95 is higher, indicating that the model provides a good fit. Okay, so that's how we're going to measure whether or not we're finding data in line with our hypothesis or not, so that's good. Below 5 indicate a good model fit. Okay, that's fair. That's all. I think that's all fair. So then they went and they did their study, and they got their questions. How many respondents did they have? It's a pretty good amount of respondents. They had been at a university for 10 years or more. Okay. Gender split was 60% for women and 39.6% for males. Good. Administrative and technical. All right. Then they had staff. Then this one really broke it down, so I'm gonna want to use this one. So real quick, I'm gonna go grab this with my Zotero, and I'm gonna throw this in on my dissertation, right? And it says right here, impact of training. All right. Knowledge, attitude, behavior. There we go. Here's their measurement model. Here's their structural model. Knowledge, attitude, behavior. Okay. We see that they have the same 3 hypotheses in the other study as well, but participating significantly will improve their knowledge, and then participating in training sessions will significantly improve their attitude, and then participating in training sessions will improve their self-reporting security behavior, which is important because if you're, this is actually an interesting thing, because like if people don't feel like they can self-report, meaning like if you self-report you're going to be fired or something, nobody would ever self-report shit, right? They think they're going to be fired for it. But if they have a better knowledge and attitude about it, and it increases their self-reporting, and by that process makes the company more secure, that's valuable, right? All right, so here's the data. March 21st and April of 2018. So this is older data. They got it from Belgian University. So one of these things that it's nice, especially when we get to our final conclusion of this and then we look at future work, they will sometimes say, well, one of the limitations here is we only did it in like a Belgian university, so it would be nice to do this somewhere else. That opens the door, as we look at the problem space, to do this same research somewhere else. Again, remember I said your dissertation doesn't get to be like the coolest thing you want it to be. In a lot of cases, it ends up being something along what's already been built, right? All right, I might have to change this music again. There's way too much singing in the background here. Let's find, good gosh. Where is... We gotta go find something, but Pretzel Rocks can do better than this. Oh my gosh. Pretzel Rocks, you are disappointing me. Give me a second, guys. This music's killing me. Stations. Can we just have something without all this throat singing shit? Let's try this. Spooky. That'll keep you guys focused, because then you'll be scared. Alright, data models over here. So they did training sessions. We're not going to be able to do all that, right? Well, I mean, I guess I could, but one of the limitations that I really struggle with around dissertation work is, like, I can't use the large professional Linux users group that I have, because people may have an undue, desire to answer questions for me, or they might feel like they're being pressured into it and all these other things. So that limits what I can do as far as, like, these professional things that I already work as a part of, but that's a limitation. It would be the same thing like if your boss came and told you had to take a survey. And you'd be like, fuck this guy, right? So, play King Tubby, no words. Oh, I don't even know. So here's the thing. I just have Pretzel Rocks on in the background, and then I just turned it to Spooky. I don't think Spooky stuff ever has words, so let's see if that one works a little better. All right. Based on the KAB model, questions regarding knowledge, attitude, and behavior were included in both the pre- and post-test questionnaire. All questions focus on specific topics that were discussed during the training session. So this is another one. I'm not going to be able to do... I would love to be able to just collect data around training and then give the training and then see if people would do the surveys. I think that would be good. That actually might be... I might be able to see if I can get that approved and then just do stuff right on... Maybe do some training right on YouTube. But then, obviously, well, as with all training, it's all self-reporting. People have to choose what they want to discuss and that. All right, so here's demographic data. That's fine. Years at the university. Sure. So on the plus side, they have collected data, which is very important. They also have, regarding their self-reported security behavior, were found between the pre- and post-test questionnaires. Large majority of employees indicated an even score on both pre- and post-test for all three statements. Only very limited number of respondents indicated higher scores in the post-test. Okay, sure. Let's go down to their... so they've got their discussion and what they did and some other things, and that all sounds good, but let's come down to their conclusion. What conclusions did they draw? Did they draw any conclusions? Doesn't look like they're actually drawing conclusions. They just have a discussion. We need to see if they reject or accept their hypotheses that they wrote earlier. And it doesn't look like... I don't want to say it's a cop-out, guys, but it's not great if you're not going to actually draw a conclusion from your data. Right? They talked about the fit of their model, and then they should be able to say definitively if something is or isn't true based on whether or not they accept or reject their hypothesis, right? All right. No complete. So, unfortunately, they don't actually have any drawn conclusion. They had a lot of good analysis, and they had a lot of information in there, but they did not actually, it doesn't seem to me, draw any conclusions. So that's... On the plus side, that also would give us possibly something to go and research more on, or even to use their data and to draw conclusions, right? Okay. So this one's interesting. There may be some other things. Empirical study on rationale based belief. So this might be interesting, but some of these, like if it's all the way back from 2010, it can be used as part of like your literature review, but it can't be part of like your problem statement in your body of what is considered like your typically things that deal with like our problem space have to be within the last 5 years. They have to be current things. So these might be useful. Some older things can be used if they're based on what we call like seminal works in the industry or seminal works in the thing. Like if you're doing process engineering, you can always quote Edwards Deming in process engineering. You will never get away. You can't do Edwards Stemming. It's Edwards Deming. Whatever. Yeah, there you go. Deming. You can always quote Deming. But you can only do that for about 5% of your dissertation. Most of your work has to be more current in the last 5 years or so. Let's see. Supply chain security, huge right now. Huge in general, but it's also big right now. So let's go grab... I am curious about this one. Let's go look at this. Get all this crap off here. Examining the effects of knowledge, attitude, and behavior on that. And this one we would have to remove that and say any time. And here's that specific one. So again, we can use specific ones like this, but they're the majority or the bulk of them have to come from like a more recent time. All right. Anyways. Abstract role and importance of information security policy is gaining popularity in many large organizations. This is true even though it's a 12-year-old article. This is still true. In Malaysia, okay. They collected data, so it isn't empirical, and they did partial least square for data analysis. Okay, we can work with that. They did a little bit of a literature review around other things that had been done, right? So that's good. I might have this one actually already. So what is this? Core, K-A-U-R, and Mustafa. Let me see here. I don't see it in here. Okay. Let's go look at the gathered information. Good. Number of years doing. And most of them were male in this case. 13 years of experience in information systems. So this is heavily involved in information systems. Here's their questionnaire about knowledge, attitude, and behavior. And then also confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Those are generalized questions, so we could reuse those if we needed to for a study. KAB, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And then they have their reliability of those and confidence. All right, that's all good. Let's see the conclusion here, right? Findings indicate that there are significant relationship between users' attitude and behavior with information security awareness. I think we probably knew that, but I'm glad that they kind of determined that. Knowledge showed no significant relationship with information security awareness. Okay. Findings also indicate the attitude and behavior had significant relationship to confidentiality, suggesting that employees are aware of their responsibilities in maintaining confidentiality of the business information and resources. That's good to know. Feedback from users indicate that they lack necessary information or knowledge in handling information security issues such as so they don't know what to do. Non-significance of knowledge construct. Organizations should play a role in educating and improving. Yeah. Okay, good. Future work should consider replicating the study to other SMEs. So whenever you see something like this, that's like them throwing it forward to the next kind of generation. So if we were using this, again, this one's a bit dated, but this would still be a good one to show that, like, the findings cannot be generalized to all SMEs, so we need to consider thinking about hitting more SMEs. The number of people that participated in this one is important. Let's see how many people they actually had participate in the survey. They had... Yeah. They did not have that many people actually respond to this one. How many people? Population for research is 110 due to the small number of population size. Questionnaire was distributed to all respondents, and so it's a pretty small population that they have here. We would want to shoot for bigger than this, and also focus on cybersecurity subject matter experts. That's what SMEs are, in case anybody's wondering. All right, so we can grab this one. I don't think we have this one yet, so we'll throw this in our dissertation work as just more information to kind of keep around. We might want to come down here and look at what they were looking at, like where were they finding information. Although you got to remember, this one's from 2013, so all their references are going to be older. But down here, evaluating structural equation models of observable variables and measurement error. This may be, right, this one right here, may be something that we use as part of our seminal type work. This is something that deals with specifically how you evaluate numbers, and that may have been where they derived their, what was their method here? Then their method up here somewhere. Where was it? It was partial least square was used for data analysis, so that may be where they got that from. I'm not sure exactly where that the origin of partial least square analysis was, but that was what they used in their data analysis, and that was the basis for how they said that it was, you know, valid. So, anyways, interesting stuff, right? Let's look at KAB security training, and let's focus back on since that year, and let's see if there's any other ones. Assessment of the impact. I think this is one that we already grabbed right here. Assessment of the impact of... What was this one? Their name might be in here. Is this one? Let's see. Okay. Oh, we don't have this one yet. All right. We can also go with Ardines. They showed up in this one, but maybe not one of these. So they could also have shown up just because they're in the references, right? So there's that. Anyways, let's go look at this. Assessment on the impact of information security awareness training methods on knowledge, attitude, and behavior. So this is one that's just right smack dab in the middle of what we need. Let's make sure that we don't have... Make sure this is not exactly the same one. Yeah, this is a different one. Yep. Okay. Fair enough. Technology is changing the way that we work more than ever before. Critical to understand security threats associated with these advanced tools to protect system data. Now, guys, by the way, my PhD, because I have changed from, I was doing a DBA with an emphasis in quantitative analytics. Now I'm working on a systems engineering PhD. So, with that, you might say, well, Scott, does your stuff have to be security related? Absolutely not. I don't have to do security stuff, but in the systems engineering world, that's probably where I spend the most time, is directly related to securing and stabilizing systems, right? That's a lot of times what they call me in for. So it just makes sense to me that my stuff kind of, at least in some ways, is mirrors that, right? So anyways, security is a combination of people, process, and technology. Sure, I agree with all that. Thus, to effectively counter cybersecurity threats, information security awareness programs are essential cornerstone. Yeah, we know that. All right, so they use the Hayes Q. That's the same type of model of questionnaire. That's the Hayes questionnaire. And that's going to be the same one that I was going to use, so that's good. That falls right in line with my methodology. And let's see. It comes to behavioral change, however, text-based game-based training formats performed better than their counterparts. So people are using gaming to get people. I've done a lot of gaming training too, which is kind of annoying, but that's what my college uses. Self-education, participate in future awareness programs was influenced by an intervention strategy. These findings have important implications as ISA, right? Information security awareness programs should be designed in a way that positively influences the mindset of employees and motivates them to embrace security practices in their daily activities. Fair, I agree with all that stuff. Let's make sure that this is going to pull down and look at empirical data. So what I mean by that is, again, do they collect data? Do they do actual work? So they've got some information here. It looks like, let's look at their related work. So they're pulling some information. Did they actually, awareness, performed a pilot study to evaluate that? Secure shell, physical security. 16 students from Thailand were divided into 2 groups of 8 and played in a cyber siege video game. Not really siege, but spelling similar. Security, perception, comprehension, projection. All right, I want to see how they collected this, though. Okay, here. So they use the Human Aspects of Information Security Questionnaire, Hayes Q, and then typically they model it after the KAB or whatever. Initial reliability and validity testing. So this is a well-known instrument, as we talk about instruments, for pulling down people's information. Hayes Q was used and validated in a respectable number of empirical studies. Yes, that's true. So we could link that back to whatever. Okay. Now, here's the information they had. Males and females. Numbers don't look like they add up right there, but maybe. Age groups. Education. How? All right, I'm not a doctor, but not a doctor yet, but those numbers don't look right to me. All right, anyways. Methodology. So what did they do? Here's their research questions. So research questions are very important because they give us what they're trying to figure out. What's the impact of every training method on knowledge acquisition? First step in KAB is knowledge, yes. And this question investigates the amount of change in users' knowledge. So are they going to get better at this? What's the attitudes? And then what's the relationship to the behavior change? Okay, that's good. And then how satisfied are they? All right, so there's some interesting research questions. I actually wonder if I can pull... I'm going to have to look at some of these because I may have some available information from my college. And then one of the nice things about a dissertation, too, is you do not have to do the study yourself. You can analyze previous data if you don't want to do the collection yourself. Not that you don't want to do the collection yourself. It's just that there are sometimes assessments on current data that are, maybe more light has been shed on it or a new technique has come out, and then you can use like government data or data that's available in the industry to gather information. So you don't have to just go sit in the lab coat and do your own research, if that makes sense. At least not at the dissertation level. Later on, I'm going to do a lot of stuff with Killer Code, with our Prolog group, I do plan on having us do research for people that want to get involved with that kind of stuff as part of like your, putting stuff on your resume and stuff. But I can't do that as part of my dissertation, right? That stuff has to be separate as far as that goes. They had 140 voluntary participants representing 12 job areas from 4 different government bodies in Kuwait. Oh, interesting, concerning education, healthcare. So they had all these respondents. They used the Kuwait National IT Governance Framework, mandates that all new information systems. So they gathered this data from somewhere out there. Only 128 participants completed the study until the end, so we exclude those who do not continue for our analysis. So they give us what they did as part of their methodology. This is how they got people in, right? Here's their Hayes Q. So Hayes Q is an instrument based on the knowledge, attitude, behavior. It can be 21 total questions. So that's 7 in each area. It can be expanded out. People add to it. People remove from it. Just depends. Interview now, or the overview of Hayes Q. They may have it down at the bottom sometimes. No, they don't have it in here. Sometimes they will have it as a in the Hayes Q model. They will have what they added or removed. But here's some instances. Here's some examples of like password management. And then you say you agree or you don't agree with these things, and you go from there. Hey, Kinder Blaze, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are just... I don't normally do this. I normally do, just straight Linux stuff. But I wanted to kind of... I don't want to say expand out, but I've been wanting for a while to do more of my academic stuff on like a Sunday night and kind of just talk through stuff with you guys. So if any of you guys have questions or anything, especially about the stuff going on the right, let me know. I'm just reading stuff and doing stuff on the left. It's our research questions. 4 government agencies from diverse fields were visited. 35 voluntary participants were invited from each agency, 140 participants in total. Initially asked participants to fill in a Hayes Q to set a baseline and record their prior knowledge and experience in the field. A between subjects experimental design was used in this study. Okay. Basic design requires 4 groups of 35 to identify combinations of security awareness training before testing their knowledge and then obtaining their feedback. First, participants were given time to read a consent form and general guidelines about the study. Okay. This is exactly what I'm used to seeing for like the Hayes Q. Internet use, email, social media, password, incident, information handling, and mobile computing. Those are very common 7 fields. And then there's knowledge, attitude, and self-reported behavior around each of these things, right? So this is very common. Now here's the results. We could keep reading about this, but the results. Quantified knowledge improvement. We conducted pre and post tests. They use a Likert scale, so 5 is strongly disagree and 1 means strongly agree. Okay. Table 3 summarizes the knowledge improvement for each group. So where's table 3 at? Here's table 4. Here's table 3. Knowledge, attitude, and behavior. That is their... Where does it say? Table 3 summarizes the knowledge improvement for each group. So they had a knowledge improvement that they quantified. I think Training Wilcox assigned rank some tests with a confidence level of 95 at 0.05, which we know is a good... That is a good to like highly acceptable correlation, right? Indicates that these tables were statistically significant, or what we call, statistically significant in details. So we measured the size of the cones D statistics and the effort size considered negligible, okay? And small, medium if there, and large if there. To acknowledge scores, all differences are considered large except for group D. We use analysis of covariance, which is ANCOVA, as opposed to analysis of variance, which is ANOVA, to examine differences on the post-test knowledge scores and pre-knowledge scores. Okay. Results indicate no statistically significant difference in post-test knowledge score between the groups. Okay. Results for research question 2. In particular, we used 12 statements to obtain participants' attitudes towards a range of cybersecurity questions. Participants answered the same question in the pre and post study. Attitude improvement results can be found in table 3. There's our attitude improvement results. And then they give some other information, same type of information of what they did. and then they're significantly better from between the different groups. So now they might have to research what was done differently in their studies. Score was statistically higher in Group A than in Group D. Results also show that Group B and Group C scores are significantly better than the Group D. So A, B, and C all did better than D, but they did it in two different parts, so to be nice, I guess. That's funny. Results for research question 3, same type of thing, and results for research question 4. So they give their analysis of these things, and then they come down here and they talk about internal validity and if there were any risks. And let's look at their conclusion validity. This threat is concerned with the degree to which the findings and conclusions we draw from statistical analysis of the data are appropriate and accurate. Test the existence of significant difference from other treatments. We use the Wilcox on signed rank sum test with a confidence level of, 95%. This does not require data to be normally distributed. It's not. Okay. They give a little bit of a discussion. Let's go down here. Let's go look at their conclusion. So conclusion and future work. Future work always throws it off to the next group, right? Gives you something to bite down onto and say, well, that was an interesting way to do it. I think we can do more, right? And again, that's the basis of all. Again, that's one of the limitations of frickin' dissertations. I can't just run off and do whatever I want. I have to prove that there's a problem space from literature, which is what we're doing here. And then going from there. All right. Educate their employees. So that is a limitation. Before and after their training. Okay. It's an interesting statement because I think you have a hard time quantifying that, but that's good that they say that. Another dimensional is to explore, further investigate the impact of individual factors on user perception in the training program. In particular, we plan to study the relation among social demographic factors and user performance. Additionally, we intend to study the future long-term impacts of different intervention strategy on knowledge, attitude, and behavior. Yeah, so different ways to put that into people's heads. An open issue for future research is to study the impact of personalizing training programs to match individuals' learning style. Yeah, that's an interesting one. What if you could personalize this, and would you be able to pump those numbers up? Hey, MRX and Hack the Planet, how are you guys doing? We are just hanging out right now. We're not working super hard. We're just doing a little bit of academic stuff. I'm kind of reading and going through some scholar.google stuff. This is kind of what we're working on. So, the research has made several contributions to research and practice. Interesting. Another key difference is the study empirically tested the impact of different training strategies on users' knowledge, attitude, and behavior, taking a holistic approach to the different aspects of ISA using Hayes Q rather than focusing on one, e.g. email management or phishing. Study has several implications for practice. First, findings enable organizations to better utilize their resources. All right, so we do want this one. This is going to be a good one for me, and we'll send it directly to my dissertation stuff. So that's fine. And real quick, just so we have the name here, should be Bader. There we go. Yep, assess the impact. All right, so I have that now. We can always go down and look at, again, this is a more recent one, more recent study, but they have a lot of other things. So this is, again, when you're looking for more stuff to fill out your kind of examination of a problem space or whatever, you're coming down here and you're reading through some of these other ones. For me, I don't necessarily want ones that aren't within my time frame, right? I need things that are more current. So I'm just going to be down here digging through. 2019 is just outside of my range, so that's not as good. 2022, Cybersecurity Awareness in the Context of Industrial Internet of Things. Now, this is a literature review, so some of these things, so like this one right here, it's within my time frame, right? It's May 22nd. And never fear, the Boris is here. How's it going? We are, aside from like blasting the screen with white, we are just looking at different kind of scholarly articles right now. And I'm throwing stuff into Zotero, which is an awesome little tool for just helping you organize notes and pull information out, and it gives you like a nice thing to kind of look at for your, in my case, dissertation, right? For other people, it could just be you want to go grab a bunch of notes. You know, you just want to have a good reference point for maybe articles that have been written and those kind of things. So we are going to probably grab this and go look at this one, see if this is good. But we may actually leave this open for a little bit too. But let's go look at this one real quick. So this one says, and we're just using scholar.google, which is a free site, right? Let's go look at this one. And let's see if this one came up. So this one did come up. It's got the right names, right? Should be A. Corallo. Good. And we can click this and actually open up that document, right? So here it is. And it gives us a little bit of a cybersecurity extract. So abstract at the top tells us what the thing's going to be about. Context of Internet of Things, which is, you know, industrial Internet of Things as well, which is even more, the term that's kind of thrown around a lot is like IoT. But then they talk about, you know, all the terms and things that we would expect. Now, this is a literature review, so we don't expect these guys here to have what we would call a, there's no empirical data. They're not going to have grabbed a bunch of stuff and done an analysis like we saw in the other ones. Those other ones are important because they have the empirical data in them. This one is more important because it's going to give us a literature review. It's going to tell us about the history of the thing and give us more generalized information. You just reminded me to take a look at Notebook LM again. Nice, never fear. Yeah, I don't know what other people use, but I think Zotero is like one of my favorite things. I mean, I have stuff in here for like when I want to train engineers. I have docs. I don't have much in there yet. And then like my Redline work when I'm pulling stuff for different customers and stuff. So I do use this professionally, although not that much. But it is really awesome for getting references and stuff out of it. So there's that. We always want to look at the introduction. What are we talking about here? We see a bunch of useful maybe references to these other things and names that we might want to go reference. For us, they're all outside of our 2022 time frame, so they're probably not going to be great, but they are good for if we just need to go spend some time reading and understanding, you know. This says, according to Van, IoT can be defined as a new combination of physical machines with digital possibilities where machines, computers, and people are networked and communicate and interact. Yeah, that's fine, right? That's a way to maybe describe this. Key objectives of industrial systems based on IoT paradigm include increasing productivity, reducing process maintenance costs, ensuring personnel safety, and making work attractive, right? But then they give the contrast, which is the more you do that, the more vulnerable you are. And that's actually very true. If you guys have ever worked in a skiff, you can't use any of those productivity things that you might normally use. Like you're used to using a wireless mouse. Oh, hell no. You're not using a wireless mouse in a skiff. That is not how that's going to work. And that's SCIF, which is Secure Compartmentalized Information Facility, right? Hack the Planet, you said you used Zotero to map a research landscape with Sky 2. Nice. Yeah, I actually had one of my, when I was working on my doctorate a while back with one of the guys who I meant to keep in touch with him, so I got to go find his information. But he and I were talking about, he was just feeding massive amounts of information into like a chat GPT, and it was helping him to summarize and look up all this other stuff. And this was a few years back too. I know that's what a lot of people are doing for research, but for me, I'm okay with kind of doing this the old-fashioned way a little bit, and then I'm just going to be working and adding things into my dissertation as I go. I have 2 of the 5 chapters I wouldn't say done, but I do have 2 of the 5 chapters kind of written up. I have over 40 pages written. I have kind of, as I've moved to a different school, I have kind of considered changing my overall topic, because I do have the next basically year and a half to write on it now. I'm not quite all but dissertation, but I'm pretty much just taking classes where I'm writing it. So it's really at this point just kind of doing this. Well, Boris, I'm here on the weekend, right? This is the only reason I'm doing this, though, is the wife took off to go. She went swimming at her friend's house, and I got an invite, but I was like, I'll just stay here and do this with the guys. So I wanted to get a little more streaming in, wanted to get a little more time hanging out. Also, interestingly enough, apparently that desktop audio is loud enough. Let me turn that down a little bit. It's triggering my voice. So give me a second. I gotta turn that down. I didn't realize that was so loud coming out of my system here. Like that's high enough to trigger in my microphone and just make me like always with my hand up. Let me put that down. How's that? Is that better? Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, so now my voice can trigger it, but that thing can't. So, yeah, that's better. I think you guys might have seen what I was talking about, but if not, that's fine. The need to increase cybersecurity awareness has become more urgent. Sure. We agree with all these things. These things are all true. Now, this is just going to be a literature review, so they're going to just walk through, research methods, systematic. So they're talking about a literature review in general. That's their whole thing here. But let's see what they kind of find. Review planning, search execution, document analysis, and reporting of results. This is what people are doing. That's pretty accurate. Literature review cannot be considered exhaustive. We provide an important overview to the role played in cybersecurity awareness in industrial context as a means of preventing or minimizing the occurrence of cybersecurity incidents and corporate data breaches. Okay, fair. And of making companies resilient to cyber attacks. This is an emerging field of research at the international level. Okay. Cybersecurity awareness and industrial and Internet of Things. So they base theirs on those two things together, right? Oh yeah, Boris. If you missed it, yeah, Ranger has passed on. His last day with us was July 3rd. Where's it at? Pets or Family. This is kind of our. That was a while ago. Hold on. This is kind of Ranger's last couple days right here. This was a picture of him at the vet. He actually was on his last little drug high, and then they kind of give him that, and then they come in and shave and give him his last shot. So yeah, and then but as you see, he went out like he lived. Drugs. He likes drugs. So. This is our little board that we keep track of stuff on, what different people in the family are doing. So yeah, that's where Ranger is. So it's okay. I mean, that's been almost a month now, so it's okay. We had up until yesterday. I actually turned it off a little while ago. I had changed over the Ranger cam to Lily cam because Lily was the other dog. Lily wasn't our dog. It's our in-laws, my mother and father-in-law. It's their dog. But Lily came over and stayed with us Friday night and into Saturday morning, so I had her on stream. And she's just so active. She wasn't down by the bed like Ranger always was. Ranger was always laying down. She was running around. I had to go throw the ball with her outside. She was like having a good time, which is good. Yeah, I appreciate that, Pandex. Yeah. Ranger was a good dog to the end. He was our guard dog. All he ever had to do was give me one good bark. He didn't have to do anything else. But yeah, he was old. He was almost 14. So here's what they ended up. Here's all the docs that they ended up processing and looking through. Right. So from Scopus and then Web of Science, they had 120 filtered results down to, whatever they were looking for. And then filter duplicate documents down to 83. And then it looks like they actually analyzed 23 different papers, so that's good. Scopus word search was conducted using the title, abstract, and keywords field, returned 98 articles, so this is their methodology, which is fine. This document, I really can't use this doc in any way because it's not. This could be part of a like a literature review section, but this would not be functional or useful for me in a problem space definition or kind of moving along my reason for doing the dissertation, if that kind of makes sense. No, Ranger was great. Ranger did good. The wife doesn't want another dog. I told her we need to get some huskies. She's like, no, not unless you want to deal with like their baby stages, their puppy stages. And I was like, well, we'll figure it out. We've got this big old doggy door downstairs, so we got to do something, right? We got to have something going on, but we'll figure it out. So, analysis of literature resources. So, evaluate the selected papers. Matrix was created to record certain metadata about each paper and its author. So that means they fed it through something, got a bunch of information about it. That's cool. Areas of analysis were how many definitions were they using, industrial context, so specific targets, techniques for raising cybersecurity awareness, and then benefits of cybersecurity awareness, right? Like what were they specifically looking at, right? Yeah, huskies are wild, and I would just be sitting down there. My wife would not be happy. I would just be sitting down with them going, oh, I'd just be teaching them how to howl all the time, and the wife would not be happy with that for sure, because they would probably mostly stay downstairs, kind of like Ranger did. See, here's the thing. Ranger, when we moved to this house, was already pretty old, so he never really came upstairs much. He kind of just lived mostly downstairs and then just hung out, with us when we'd be down there or whatever. We used to joke around about we didn't even know if Ranger knew how to use the stairs. But he just stayed down by his beds down there and kind of hung out as well. Pandax. Yeah, I do have Twitch. Yeah, we're hanging out on Twitch right now, in fact. Yep. All right. So anyways, where are we at here? We're going through this. Let's skip down to they did whatever things they wanted to do about this and looked at. And then let's skip down to where they actually did techniques, cybersecurity awareness, and then they were using the NIST 800-34, which defines a discrete set of resources used for the collection, process, maintenance, use, sharing, dissemination, and disposition of information. So let's go look at this real quick. I'm not aware of this one. I am somewhat aware. Contingent. Oh, so this is a contingency planning one. Okay. And has it been deprecated? Is it superseded by another one? Yeah, that's fine. Let's go look at their. So this is just contingency systems. Some of you guys know I do quite a bit. Oh, this is actually probably pretty good because they give the definitions and things that I think a lot of people need to understand around the difference. And most people don't know that there's a huge difference between a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery plan. And just having a backup plan is not even part of it. Business continuity plan is like what's important to the business to move forward and keep operating. And then from that, you derive all your different security stuff, right? Yeah, Ranger was definitely a good boy. Yeah. And then let's see if they actually have any good. Yeah, here's a nice. That's a nice little. I might even go grab that. Go throw that in the Discord under like cybersecurity, and say security topics. That's a nice little snip. Let me grab this as a snipping tool. I know it's not going to show you guys the screen for a second here, but that's okay. Copy. Boom. Because, in general, I think not that people don't understand these, but maybe people only know of like a disaster recovery plan, or maybe they only know about a cyber incident response plan. but maybe they're not familiar with all of what these things might be, right? So that's a nice little one to kind of look at. I will also always grab these things for Zotero, so I'll throw these in here. What's going on here? Where's my Zotero connector at? Get this thing out of the way. Zotero's definitely running. What's going on here? Does that look like it didn't? Huh. Definitely looks like this is not doing anything, but I wonder if it's because... No, that should definitely work. Zotero should still be popping up right here. Alright, well, we could always just download it, right? And it'll just download to downloads, boom, and then we can just grab it for later. Because this can actually pull things in from link to a file, right? Then you can actually just pull things in directly off of downloads or whatever. Where's downloads at? There you go. Dissertation. Boom. Yeah. That's fine. Maybe I was already getting it too. Maybe it was actually downloading it. Yeah, it was downloading it. It wasn't actually telling me it was downloading it, which is also super funny. Let's move items to trash. It's fine. We only need the one. That's fine. Fine little thing to keep track of, because you can always reference those kind of things, right? Smart manufacturing, main feature. So they started digging into, again, this is a literature review type tool here. So what are they looking at here? A lot of these that they're looking at are older. They use a qualitative methodology to identify cybersecurity awareness. Now, truth be told, almost all of the stuff that I both use and look at are quantitative. So the difference between quantitative and qualitative methodologies tend to be like this. Quantitative methodologies ask research questions that are they ask hypotheses, and then those hypotheses are typically either accepted or denied, right? That kind of stuff. Hey Pandex, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you over on the Twitch side now. Yep. Yeah, we got, I don't know, 27 people hanging out on Twitch or so. Only 3 on YouTube, because we're not doing the normal Linux stuff that we do. Although, I could argue that most of this stuff is still... I mean, I can answer Linux questions if people want. I also do have to fix the lab, so I could be working in Linux if we needed to. But qualitative tends to then be less concerned with, like, discrete proof of things and more... I want to say qualitative is not concerned with like a hard answer or like an equation about like proof of things. It's dealing more with the way I think of it anyways is more like the experience people had, grouping experiences together. Are they mostly positive? Are they mostly negative? How to, there's like narrative qualitative methodologies where people look at like the study of like what a person's experience was or something in a certain context, and maybe then could be looked at to improve or whatever. There's a bunch of stuff like that, right? I'm less interested in that kind of stuff because I think of things through like an engineering mindset. That's what I do day in and day out. That's kind of how I think as a person. So quantitative makes a lot more sense to me. But it doesn't mean that qualitative studies aren't useful to me still. Qualitative studies are really, really good for getting definitions and understanding terminology and understanding models and frameworks that people have come up with. So there's a lot of usefulness there still. Pandax said, whenever you got time, could I recommend or things or projects you could assign yourself as a new coder? Well, I am not, so just so you know, I'm not really a coder. That's not what I do. I'm more of a systems engineer. Like I do the low-level Linux underneath things, all the way up through Kubernetes in some cases. I deploy mostly high-performance compute type systems, like professionally. That's what I do. But as a coder, if you were like, hey, Scott, on top of that, what might be interesting? One we always have a need in the high performance compute space. We always have a need for people to do benchmark testing. So I might tell you to look at something like LinPack. So LinPack are like the LinPack benchmarks, and they are what are used in the top 500 systems. So I'll link this to you. And I might tell you that a thing you might want to learn how to do is run like basic benchmarking protocols. Like what do I, because I know guys, I tell you guys this sometimes, like I know guys that have been doing Unix since like the early 70s when Unix was new still. Like I still work with guys that do that. And literally all those dudes do is come in and kick off some of these benchmarks and stuff, and then they go play golf all day. And then they come back and they look at the output against, like, you say, wait, they're doing stuff from, like, that they've been doing for, like, the last 50 years, but they're doing against, like, current modern type Linux systems that are in newer types of architectures and stuff that they've never even seen before? Yes. Yes, they are. Yes. And do they have to sometimes go recalculate things and do all this other? There's a tremendous amount of back-end value to understanding how benchmarking works in the systems world. Like to be able to test something and to give it a LinPack benchmark, because this is how we list what the top 500 on planet Earth are. If we want to know what the top 500, this new one just came out in June, who's on top, it's El Capitan from HPE, right? I work with these guys all the time. HPE, I'm literally on a call every morning with high performance, Hewlett Packard Enterprise is HPE, but I'm on the call every morning with a bunch of these guys on our system. Our system that I work on debuted on 38 and 39 on this, right? Yeah. Yeah, some of these are massive. These are wild. One of the biggest ones, by the way, Barag is one of my mods. He's also my brother. The one that's finally dropped down to 7, when this debuted, it was number 1 for many years. This is the first time. This is the supercomputer Fugaku. This one was the first time that the ARM architecture was number 1 in the world, and he was number 1 for many years. I think he got to number 1 in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, and he was number 1 when ours debuted for NOAA at 38 and 39. And if you're like, well, which ones are those ones? They are. This was published by NOAA, so I can show you guys it. But this is their supercomputers, and when we actually kicked off these. This is when it went live. This is the one in Manassas, Virginia. I can say that because they've shown you this, right? I would normally not tell you guys that. But this thing shows right here that we were originally 38 and 39, but then somebody else got bumped off from above, so we became 30, whatever I was saying, 37 and 38 or whatever. But this is the NOAA one. This is one that I still work on right here. Right? And there's, but my point in showing you guys that is like, these are massive amounts of HPC and people had to benchmark these. You had to be able to benchmark across all these systems. So that's a project to work on. Pandax, if you want to get better at something that's valuable, you're not gonna lose. You're not gonna be, in the next. I mean, some of those guys, again, they've been doing that same shit for 50 years, and they just kick off the same damn thing, but with different parameters against brand new systems. I build the systems. Me and the other guys build the systems, and they just come off their golf games, and they run the software on top of it, and then when they're done, they just go back to whatever. Panax said you took a semester of Python and Java at my local community college, so honestly, all this is going over my head, but I want to understand. Yeah. Pandex, I'll be honest, man. Like I'm not the number one guy to hang out with if you want to get better at coding. However, if you're like just a Linux guy and want to understand maybe like the Linux game, that is more of what I do typically around stream. Oh, I'm not telling you to leave. You're welcome to hang out. We've got a Discord. Discord is free. Discord is almost at 4,100 people. Where are we at here? I can go look right here. Members. Yeah, we're 4,092 members, so it's popping off. People are in there talking. I mean, people are complaining. And then we've got admin channels, and we've got so many events coming up. In early August, we have our annual conference that goes once a year, and Pandax. If you're wanting to get into if you're wanting to get into Linux, I mean that's what I focus on. I have these free books out here on Linux administration, free book on professional Linux security, like security engineering, and the topics for these are all out there. These are all free. If you're in the Discord, they're in the beginner start here section. So you just go down here and you go find where beginners start here, and it just there's all these things to go. So there's, like, I would say hundreds of hours worth of material here for you guys to work on if you're interested in doing that stuff. What am I doing right now, though? I'm not working super hard. The wife went to her friends for swimming, and I am sitting here just working on stuff for my dissertation. Yeah. Pandax, no, Linux is not so much, it's not so much a coding. We do Bash on top of Linux, and Bash will look like a coding language to you, sure. But no, what we do in Linux is an operating system. It's a kernel and then a set of functions and things on top of it that interact with hardware and all these different things. I mean, that's like the high-level 3-second rundown of it. But no, Linux itself is not a coding language. Linux is a platform, and then things happen on top of it. It's also a state of mind. Fair enough, Sending Grounds. So anyway, we're looking at right now, this is a literature review. We found this. So how did we find this literature review from Science Direct? Well, we were reading this article over here, and we saw something that I thought was interesting, so then we started to dig into, we went and dug into their whenever somebody gives you something with a bunch of empirical research, which they did a bunch of research, they're always going to, at the end, have a good set of references. So we were actually reading on one of these that I thought was kind of interesting. We need them from 2022 and on. So we were actually on the cybersecurity awareness in the context of industrial Internet of Things right here. But then I want to keep going down and look for another one that's within my time frame, right? I need 2022 and on, generally speaking. I could use older things, like if Electronics Information Security Documentation in PROC Australia's Information Security Workshop Conference, if this were like a seminal work from 2003 that helped define the industry, then I could use this. But this is not one of those, or at least I'm not going to bother to read it to see if it is. So now I got to go find 2020, right? So we can find the times and dates. It's really easy to find them typically. The formatting here is a little different. I'm used to APA formatting. So APA formatting will have their names and then it'll immediately have the date. This is scientific notation, therefore the date's at the end. So it's a little more of a hassle to find in my eyes. This looks more like what I'm used to here. But we're trying to find things from 2022 or later. Now, one of these that so this one right here by Kay Parsons, I already have this one, I think, but this would be considered a seminal work. So it's determining employee awareness using the human aspect of information security questionnaire, Hayes Q. So this probably is one that, even though it's dated outside of my 2022 and on requirement, it would be kind of there. Panda, so I am researching for my dissertation right now. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm just reading through things. Guys, all this stuff is free on scholar.google.com. The main thing you need to focus on, though, if you're doing this, is you do need to limit things down to peer-reviewed scholarly work and things that have, proper references and that kind of stuff involved. Otherwise, you can't really use it in academia. Could you use it on your own? Absolutely. None of these things here that I'm kind of pish-poshing off are not good. They're all good. They're just not necessarily something that can be used academically by me, right? I found one over there. I need to get up to it. So over here, 2020, no good. Well, not for what I need. Here's 2022, and this is Cybersecurity Awareness, Knowledge, and Behavior, a Comparative Study. This one may be pretty interesting for me, and I may just go grab this, and then come back over here and pop this in right here. And let's see if this one finds M's Willing. Yep, there we go. So there's his name. There's his information. Let's go look at this one and see if this one... Now, this one's run its course, and we've already downloaded this into our Zotero app. So now I have it for later reference. Boom, right? So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to read a little bit about this. Here's the DOI. It's awesome when you have the DOI because anybody can reference that DOI from anywhere, which is really awesome when you have that. So boom. We do want, if we can, to have the DOI. Let's read the article. This is an article in its base form. The DOI is the kind of like it's always going to be on the internet, if you want to think of it like that. Yeah, Braga. Actually, me and one of my other buddies have talked about this pretty extensively. Yeah, if somebody ever asks if there's a doctor in the room, I'm going to immediately make the system, or I'm immediately going to make the problem worse. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen, Braga. Somebody's going to say, this man's dying. Is there a doctor in the room? And then I'm going to say, I'm a doctor of mathematics. And then they're going to say, yeah, this other guy's dying as well. And I'm going to say, okay, 1 + 1, that makes 2. Yeah, you have to be truthful about stuff. Yeah. We basically, I mean, I almost have to at that point, right? All right, sure. We'll accept all your cookies. They can have all our cookies. So let's look at their abstract real quick. So we always start with the abstract. Cyber attacks represent a potential threat to information security. I mean, it almost sounds like it goes without saying, but in this case, we always have to say it. As rates of data usage and internet consumption continue to increase, that's true. More and more people getting on the internet. Differences, awareness, connection to protection tools, but are not information they're willing to disclose. All right, so they're looking in Israel, Slovenia, Poland, and Turkey. This is where they've chosen to do their research. This will be interesting when we get down to their conclusions later and what we call future research, because then as they kind of fall forward with the completion of their research, they throw up. It's almost like they throw up, this is the next thing that we need to do. So they always give like a future research consideration. So this will be interesting. This study focuses on relations between cybersecurity, knowledge, and behavior. So they are probably using knowledge, attitude, and behavior as, I'm surprised they didn't say that. So maybe this is limited. Typically the model that we use is KAB, which is the knowledge, attitude, and behavior model. Okay. All right. So we come down here. We start to look through this. Here's the introduction, right? Okay, we know all that stuff. Good. Let's come down here, and here's their research objectives. It's divided in 2 categories. They want to build a theoretical framework, and then they want to evaluate levels of cybersecurity awareness, knowledge, and behavior, which were evaluated according to the following research questions. What is the level of cybersecurity awareness among netizens, so people on the net? That's not like denizens or something, but it kind of is. And then what is the behavior of netizens adopt to prevent cyber hazards? That's funny. And is there any difference in cybersecurity awareness and behavior among netizens of different countries that diverge in their GDP values? This starts to get, I'm going to have to send this to one of my buddies who's an economist, because this starts to get into economic type stuff. Also, man, is that song like just going? I thought we were on spooky music. This song sounds like... Oh, we're skipping this song. That didn't sound like spooky music to me. That sounded more like we were getting out to go for a run or something. All right, anyways. All right. Theoretical background, impact of cybersecurity. Let's see what they did and how they gathered their data. All right. How are the data collected? Cybersecurity knowledge. They are using, we're looking for, are they using like a Hayes Q? What is their model? What is their, it's not a model, it's an instrument. What are they using to collect this data? Phishing simulators. Let's see what they did. They're looking at somebody else's data, which is fine. You can still do quantitative analysis on somebody else's data. That's not a problem. Lots of words. Let's go find... so here, quantitative cybersecurity knowledge is positively connected to cyber awareness. Sure. Yeah, and the hypothesis 2, netizens' country of residence will moderate the connection between cyber knowledge and cyber. So they're saying, based on where they're at, that's going to affect things. So, yeah, thanks for coming by, Braga. Hey, real quick, Braga, before you go. Are you, have you guys watched, Netflix has, Happy Gilmore 2 on it? Have you watched that yet? Me and the wife have not watched it yet, but I'm curious if you're going to watch it. It's on there. It just came out on Friday, guys. I almost watched it with the wife already. But one of my buddies is like in his late 50s. I've known him for a long time from wrestling, and he's like, yeah. So on Friday night, he's like, I need to figure out how to slide this into the wife, like no, that doesn't sound right. How to slide in the info that this is how the night's gonna end with us. That we're gonna be watching Happy Gilmore 2 tonight. So it's funny, like maybe some of you got to go show your wife Happy Gilmore 1 first. Or your significant other or whatever. But no, Happy Gilmore 2 came out on Friday. So netizens with higher cybersecurity awareness will engage in more cyber protect. I mean, well, it's good. I think it's something that has to be quantified. You can't just say that, right? Like that's one of the things about any academic topic or whatever. You can take a stance, and we could all look at that and say, well, that's objectively true. But is it? I mean, I may be so I may think that I have so much cybersecurity awareness that I'm cavalier about it, and I'm like, nobody's going to get me. So maybe this is not a true statement. We got to prove this, right? From an academic stance, that sounds like a pretty safe hill to die on there, but that could be wrong. So I'm glad that they have that as one of their hypotheses. Cybersecurity awareness will serve as a mediator between cyber knowledge and cyber protection, i.e., individuals with greater cyber knowledge will be more aware of potential cyber hazards and therefore exhibit more cyber protection behavior than individuals who lack the needed levels of awareness or knowledge. That's an interesting one too, because again, that could be one of those things where you're like, I've been on the internet, guys. The first time I logged into the internet was '93, right? I was in a library computer at the main branch library. So in '93, it was the first time I was like playing around on like a web crawler, right? And that's not the oldest of anybody I know, but that's pretty old. I might be a little more cavalier again, thinking, it's never happened to me yet. Well, but it might be today, right? So anyways, my point is, it's good that they have these hypotheses, and then here's what they think the relationship between them are. Let's go look at subjects they use, and they've got these BA students in the Department of Economics and Business Administration they use Ariel University in Israel. Department of Business at Lublin University in Poland. So they got approval to approach these students or use them and ask them questions. Yeah, King. If you didn't touch the internet until 2003, I was in Iraq in 2003. So you were probably on the internet when I was off the internet for a year. But anyways, that's kind of funny. Yeah, I first got on it in '93. But I know guys that were on it, and they were on computers heavily before that was even a thing. All right, instruments provide a theoretical framework. So now here's our instruments. How did they gather information? Now they're going to make their own, it looks like. They want to provide a theoretical framework. They developed a questionnaire that includes several questions aimed to test global familiarity on subjects of cybersecurity. So they didn't use like the HAME or Hayes Q, right? They are using their own. So that's interesting. Sometimes those are included with the paper, right? They are also looking at awareness, knowledge, and behavior, whereas normally we're using knowledge, attitude, and behavior. So they are using the AKB model, let's say, and then they're looking at it a different way. Again, when you're doing a dissertation, if you guys ever go work on your doctorate for any fun reason, just know that you don't get to make your own instrument during your doctorate. The proving out of an instrument is years and years. So they're generating one, they're creating one here, but other people have to prove it out and do the math on it and do those ANOVA and ANCOVA type of analyses on them before they go on. So there's that. All right, awareness was measured to the question, what degree are you familiar with the term cybersecurity? And then it was a Likert scale, right? Did they say that they... All right, they didn't say it here, but I bet they are going to use the Likert scale, because 1 is no knowledge and 4 is very good knowledge. So then you've got a 2 and a 3. Most people don't like to standardize things at 4 data points like that, because 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are what most people are used to. All right. Knowledge, we measured respondent knowledge of several aspects of cybersecurity, cyber threats, and general cyber knowledge as follows. So threats, and then okay, here we go. There's the Likert scale. Guys, it's always the Likert scale. it's like high, medium, low, right? Strongly disagree to strongly agree. So that's that. All right. Education awareness, they talked about a 3-level scale. If you're going to make, if you're going to, and they're still using Likert, but it's ranked 1 through 5. And then they used another 3-level scale. When you change scales on people, sometimes that's not great. D attendance with one, cybersecurity or program and other. All right, so they asked some other questions. Then they gave familiarity, and I like this. This may be a very useful one to give a contrast, because when I'm doing when you're doing your literature review around, like, let's say I'm going to use the model of knowledge, attitude, and behavior, I may give a nod. It's like a tip of the hat to. There's this AKB model that was also put forward where they gave male and female and academic background, and we measured these other things. Also the country you were in, because we wanted to then be able to use GDP from those countries as part of our analysis. I have not yet seen this. And then type of study, are you part-time or full-time? That's interesting. So these are interesting characteristics to ask people around these different environments, right? Okay. King said, you've been using Linux since 2008, 10 professional and 10 years of experience in AWS, but no certifications. Can you recommend what certification I should get and how to study for it? Yeah, King. I mean, I guess it depends where you want to go. If you want to stay in the Linux field, I would tell you to just, in my mind, keep working on Linux. But if, let's say you want to get into AWS and get a cert, and you wanted to go do that more or something, I like to start with the... So I have 5 of the AWS certs, if anybody cares, and that's not that super important to me because I don't work in that space a whole bunch. Also, it's really funny that my thing just reset. But I have 5 of the certs in there in the AWS space. And the one that I always tell people to start with is the Certified Cloud Practitioner. And the only reason I say to do that one for $100 first is because when you pass that one super easy, then you go take the $150 Solutions Architect Associate, but because you got a half off, now it's only $75. So you spent $100 and then $75 for 2 certs, as opposed to just going and taking the Solutions Architect Associate for $150, right? And now you only have 1 cert. Now you might say, now most guys would say, well, that's the net same effect, Scott, because nobody cares about the certified professional. Well, I don't know, somebody might, and maybe if you go get 2 of those, that looks a little better. And then once you do that, like for me, I went and jumped over after that, and I got my developer associate with them. So I spent some time with developer work and doing that with them. I also got my security practitioner with them as well. And then I went over and I did my Solutions Architect Pro. That was the 5th and last AWS cert that I got. So, but my solutions for how I would study for them would definitely be to use their free material. They have some really good free material out there. And then the other thing I always did right before I took one of their certs was I would just sit there I would just sit on YouTube, guys, and I would go to their reInvent, the most recent reInvent. So this was like, I was taking all of those in like 2022 and 2023. And I would go sit in like the 2022 reInvent, and I would just watch all the sessions on all of the databases and all of the... Lambda is a huge service, so everything on Lambda, and that's what I did. I just kind of went through and just worked on, and it was kind of like all my studying was done, and the last thing for me to do was just to go watch what they were talking about and what those people saw. Yeah, there's a free course right there from Colchis. So Colchis dropped a free skill builder course that you could look at. We also have quite a few guys. Oh yeah, one of our guys works at AWS, and he was telling us how if you work at AWS, you can't go to reInvent, or AWS. If you work at Amazon, you can't go to reInvent unless you have a reason to be there, like you're a speaker or something like that, because Amazon doesn't just want 10,000 of their guys there. They want people from all over the industry, which I think is hilarious. So you have to have a reason to go. One of our other guys, a fisherman, he works for them, and he will tell you, he's like, yeah, I can't get them to send me there unless I'm doing a talk or doing something like that, and I think that's hilarious. So that's probably something similar to what Sending Grounds is dealing with, where, if you're close to the company, you're not getting sent for free, right? Which is, well, if you're too close to the company, you're not getting sent for free, right? So I think that's kind of funny. He actually, the other guy, Fisherman's actually been told not to go unless he has a reason, and I think that's hilarious because he's one of their senior solutions architects. But he's that's what his title is, senior solution architect, and he's not allowed to go. All right. Anyway, so they got results. I think that's interesting. Main cyber attack concerns were violation of privacy, loss of data, spying on private citizens, loss of money, spying on organizations, and potential role in terror attack. These are fantastically different than what I'm used to seeing on these. Everybody follows the same model, and these guys have walked completely differently. So this is going to be a very interesting one for me. I'm definitely going to want to grab this. So real quick, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to move my Zotero connector, and I'm going to say get that in the dissertation work, right? And then it'll be right here, Swilling et al. Good. So then let's go see what they're talking about and what they're doing. So we've got some information here. We should probably get to some charts, I imagine. Connection between cyber knowledge and awareness. So then they start to plan that out, and those are pretty significant numbers right there as far as relevance. So let's keep going. Those are pretty good. And then they have interaction between cyber recognition in Israel and levels of awareness. So again, they're picking country, guys. Israel, Poland. Do they have more? So interaction between computer knowledge and level of awareness, where this was cyber recognition, right? And they have Poland and Israel, right? So two countries that are different in economic ways, right? All right, so connection between country awareness and behavior. So now they're starting to look at the different ways that these are working. So now they only had these two before, Israel and Poland, and then they had Slovenia added, and Turkey as a comparison country. Okay, so now they start to add these, right? Did they give more? They might have charts more down in there. They also have this, or we might be able to just display the table here. All right. Model 8 protection, Model 9 provide. I don't know. I'll have to look at what these are. So they found good. Yep, that's pretty good. That's really good. Statistical significance, right? And let's go down here. Research results that internet users are aware of the term. Okay. And let's go down here and look. The main thing after discussion, conclusions and future work. So this is where they kind of throw it forward for the next group. And this is where we look at what they concluded. Did they accept or did they reject their four or five hypotheses? I'm not exactly sure. But let's talk about what they then are saying that we should do in the future from here, right? So we walk through this. Our research contributions may be classified in the following categories: elaboration on existing knowledge, economic need to invest in cybersecurity technology, sure, in developed countries with high GDP, global need for comparative analysis derived from lack of cybersecurity knowledge across cultures. Therefore, training programs should be developed with an international orientation based on individual behavior rather than local and cultural expressions. Okay. It's important to point out this study has some limitations that should be taken into consideration. So whenever they talk about limitations in future work, we talk about where we're going here. So let's look at this real quick. Future studies should develop specific instruments to measure cybersecurity awareness knowledge. Unfortunately, in a dissertation, you don't get to build your own instrument. You have to use one that's already there. So if theirs is a proved out one, we could go from that. Although we measured the variable using a single item scale, multiple item scales, I just got bit on the elbow by something, were found to exhibit higher reliability. Even so, some researchers have suggested that if a single item question can elicit valuable information, its advantage of simplicity can confer on its reliability and validity. Okay, good. Even at the expense of extensive detail. Fair enough. I think that that's an accepted truth, right? We talk about the nature of how we can know things, and I think most people agree with that. That simplicity can still confer reliability and validity even without going detail on a question, right? Like if any of you guys have taken a test where you read 45 minutes of a question before you answer one, that doesn't necessarily give you any more than just some simple question that digs in. So, all right, skill-based behaviors. Supported by Aerial Cyber Innovation Center in conjunction with Israel National Cyber Directorate and the Prime Minister's Office. Okay, now they have some notes and then references. So references are useful, right? References are useful because then we can go dig in, especially if it's something. I like that all of these are directly related to like Google Scholar, so that's awesome for us. Also, we need the dates to be within 2022. So these are older. Although something like this could potentially, there's a possibility that something like this could be a seminal work, and then that would be super useful, right? But no, we have nothing here. Nothing here. These are all older, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with using older work. Again, it's just here's one. So this is determining employee awareness using the human aspects of information security. Hayes Q. That's a very common one. Hold on, guys. The wife's texting me. What is she saying here? I'm asking her. I'm giving her the reverse Uno. What do you want to eat? Because she asked me what I wanted to eat. So I said, what do you want to eat? 2025, bit dated. 2017. 2009, a bit dated. 2004, 2005, 2016. 2019, that's closer. 2012, 2001, 2012. So they're using a little bit older. 2012, 2010, 2000. Man, this song is really going, isn't it? Hold on. Sorry, guys. I need spooky music, but quiet spooky music. All right. 2018, 2017, 2015. 2015, 2009, 2007, 2018. It might still be, some of these might still be useful. I don't want them in my main. Resilience, work stress. That might be an interesting one because this is looking at it in a different format or a different way. Could be useful for our literature review. I still want one in our date range. Nope. 2016, 2001, 2016, 2019, and 2005. All right. So we didn't really get too many new things there. I do kind of want to see what they used for their. Here's their descriptive analysis of respondent characteristics. So where are they at? And I think this other one must be where they were actually. Here's their awareness and where they were located: Israel, Poland, Slovenia, and Turkey. I like this. So their familiarity, their knowledge is an expression. They have their own 1 through 5 or 1 through 3, like they said. And this one's probably the 1 through 3. But it was, where did they get that knowledge from? So this was 0 through 9 sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then where did they feel that they had... Again, these are all... I mean, all you can ever do with people is ask them. And then attendance. Have they done IT security? Man, I have like 30 IT security trainings a year at my freaking college. So that's kind of funny. My college makes me study. So, like the one that I teach at, I do probably as many. I'd be willing to bet I do more IT security training than fucking, for sure, the average engineer does. But maybe, I'd bet I'm in like the 95th or higher percentile of like all IT professionals as far as like how many times I have to do that Kevin Mitnick training every year. And when I say Kevin Mitnick training, I'm talking like he passed away a few years ago. Some of you guys know that probably, but I mean, his training. I have like 6 of his trainings that I have to do like every 6 months, and that's on top of other crap I got to do. It's wild, but it's ridiculous. And then I still have my other ones through my other work, so that's fun. Threats blocking, threats violation. Look at all that. Okay. What do they provide? Man, this was kind of a long survey. I'm surprised people would spend as much time. Some score usage and response to make it protect their instrument. Do they use a strong password? Do they frequently change password? We know whatever people say, they mostly don't frequently change their password. They only do it when they're forced. We know that in general. This is interesting. When you finish, do you log off of everything? Do you leave the computer? Do you always lock the system? This is a huge one for engineers. Mostly because other people will rickroll you and do all kinds of other terrible things. There's actually a joke about how that rickroll video has done more for cybersecurity awareness than all other phishing campaigns and cybersecurity campaigns put together, right? All right. So this one, we already saved this one, so that one's pretty good. I like that. Let's go ahead and get out of here then, and then we'll come back over here. And we can keep looking at, right? We can start looking for Hayes Q, and we can also do that since 2001. And then we can go look at what other people are using these for, right? Like, because at the end of the day, if we're looking at knowledge, attitude, and behavior, and then the instrument we're using is Hayes Q with KAB as a function of it, then we can really start to dig in on how other people have been using it, right? How other people are using that, what the information around that kind of pans out and is focused on and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so... Yeah, I got a lot of good stuff in here now to start digging into and pulling out. So, I think these ones are all new too, because I don't think I have any of these guys in mind. So, let me see. So the wife is coming here, coming back shortly. All right. Other than this, what's everybody's working on this weekend? Everybody got plans for what they're doing this next week? What are we working on? Let's see what's going on here. So, I now need to figure out why my nodes are not... Okay. TFTP is... Oh, why is that? That would make sense. Why this wasn't starting the other day then. So let's go start this VM up. So now I'm just kind of hanging out and I'm working on... Oh, nice, Sending. You're getting your presentation a little more up to snuff. Trying to be the favorite. Sending, we got to figure out a way to incentivize all of the people doing talks. We'll probably do some kind of like feedback like we've done in the past. And hopefully we can find a way to like... I don't know, reward people who are like crowd favorites or something. Maybe we'll invite people back later again or something. Hold on. Why is Rocky 12 with that? Man, this song's really going. Alright, overlay build. Build all the overlays for all the systems. He's trying to use the IPMI tool, TMPL, initramfs. He's got the right info there. But why is he not pulling? Firewall D is down. Whoops. More. Werewolf's on. So is TFTP. So is DHCPD. Yep. Okay. So all the component pieces are on, but when the system comes up, he is seeing the server. When he goes to pull his info, he's not getting where is it at? Hold on. Ooh. He's trying to pull in. It's not readable. Is that what it's trying to pull in right there? Nope. He is pulling the right werewolf iPixie. Where is... That was a long one right there. Where is the main pin? There. There he is. What is he holding open, right? Like, what's he actually using? Use libdev This thing says that he's supposed to have a iPixie. See what TFTP is holding open, because I'm wondering what the rlib TFT boot. Yeah, that makes sense because that's what it's sharing. So some of you guys know we were hanging out last night, and I just decided to update the werewolf while we were hanging out, and I broke my back end for restarting my servers. And in Werewolf, everything is a stateless node. So until I get it back up, none of my nodes can reboot. So the one that I'm kind of testing on is the Rocky 12 box, and that's kind of where I was at last night. We were kind of messing with it until the wife came home last night too. So I'm trying to figure out the behavior of the newer Werewolf, in that we can see the nodes. We can see the configuration of the node is correct. But as the node boots and gets its DHCP and comes in and calls to Werewolf, it's trying to go to iPixie, right? So it's trying to go to this iPixie directory inside of var lib tftp boot in here. And it's not finding that. It's not the configuration of the system for how like the init is happening is not working. So that's all that's in there. All right. This may be an older one. This may be an older way of doing it, so I might have to go read the docs on the newer Werewolf stuff. Come on. Container. So it's possible. CD to generic. What's James? I might have been messing around with that. Showing one of my coworkers something. So there's all my overlays here. My hex IP, asset key, asset UUID. Where is it pulling all these to generate that long file name? So we have right here. Where is it at? Come on. Can't be that far back. All right. So let's go. We're gonna try something else. We're gonna try something different. So we're going to we're gonna work around the problem. So copy nodes.conf to nodes.conf dot. So here's today's date, right? 6/27. Yeah, right there. Boom. So there's today's nodes.conf, and we're going to www.ctl node del Rocky 12. Gonna delete him. He's gone. Now we're going to www.ctl node add Rocky 12. We're going to www.ctl node list -a Rocky 12. And here's the defaults that he gets as non-pulled in from the system. Right, this is just the defaults that he gets here. And I'm interested in, where is his, does he have discoverable? don't see a discoverable. It's an interesting thing that they don't have that anymore. So let's see if we can't get him working, this one individual node, and then we'll go from there. So here's what a node edit looks like. He's just got a default. So we're going to come up here, and we're going to give him a hardware Mac. And we know what his Mac is. His Mac is right here. There's his Mac. On boot. IP adder, we can set that as well. He's gonna be 200 dot. What is he? He's Rocky 12, so he'll be 62. Yep. And then his net mask is gonna be. Oh, that's weird. His net mask is gonna be 255.0. That should be. Uh-oh. Ah, I didn't take my edit, damn it. Oh, we'd have to put the node nade up here. So we'd have to... Ah, but we could just use all those, that's fine. So now he's discoverable true, and we're going to boot this box. And we're going to see if he finds out who he is on the network. And then we might have a new method for getting back to a working system. A method that we didn't use before, but well, if it gets us back working, I'm fine with it. I don't care that much. Right? In the home lab, I'm much more cavalier about how things boot and start. Let's see if he figures out that he's Rocky 12. Not the optimal way to do it, but if it works, it works. Okay. See, we have discoverable true. So he should have come up. And he should have taken the configuration for Rocky 12. Even if he didn't boot, he should have still found out that he was Rocky 12. And then... Let's go look at like 11. Okay. Edit Rocky 12. There are way more things in here than we used to have in our original configs. So, I gotta change this. I don't know how that's classified as spooky, but yeah, this is not what I would consider optimal. Let's see if we have. There's the build. Something else. Here we go. Let's go into some of the things that we can do. That's NFS mounts. This is just regular profiles. Stop the rotation. So So that's all we have in here for him now. I see. Let's go look at the node profiles. What are defaults up here that are given? There's not really anything for network. We do not have a default net here. Does he see? Nope, doesn't see the network. I want to see. Node or nodes, both works. Configure node properties, set status. Yeah, none of those are seen yet. Well, that's what I get for updating stuff in prod. But it's not that big a deal, guys. It's just something I'll... If I blow all these boxes away and get them all back up, it doesn't really matter much. As long as the cluster's there, as long as the keys are still good. I should probably test some of the other functionality to get into the boxes, but for now it's fine. Fine little session as far as that goes. See what the wife's saying. Let's see. Nope, still unconfigured. Still not seeing. So there's a break in what these nodes, what they're seeing here. And he sees that he's discoverable, meaning if a new box comes up or a new system comes up, he should be dropped in his D689 B0 D. As that doesn't show up anywhere else, yeah, his Mac doesn't show up anywhere else in any of the other systems, so he should be dropped in there, and he should just come up. That's what discoverable means in Werewolf. Discoverable means we don't know who he is, so we let him connect. I'm gonna have to dig in a little more on what's going on with this. Well, I mean, I also don't see an image. What's the default image? I guess that's something that's also needed. Yeah, that might be something that we technically need in our defaults as well. Also, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I might need to make it oh. Yeah, that's... I'm also missing that. So net needs to be out here, and I need to define the profiles for them. Okay. And then out here, these all need to go back. Need that image name, which is here. Sharp Werewolf D. Let's see if we can see Rocky 12. Now he's got discoverable. His profiles are default. He's got the image, which is probably what we were lacking there. That's definitely something that was lacking. Overlay build has to happen so that he's got the proper overlays. And then, just for fun, we'll do image build. We don't need to do an image build for that. After you complete the skill builder, should you take the exam, or is there a way to practice? There's a lot of practice material out there. There's a lot of stuff that you can kind of look at. In the skill builders, there's also like practice questions that are out there. I have a fair amount of practice questions up in the Discord as well. Oh, look. He found out that he's Rocky 12. He's booting. We'll at least see if we can get him to start to boot. That's good. Also, I think that means that I don't need to change his Mac on the other one, so that's good. Those are still going to start to come up. All right, let's see if this box comes back up. Yeah, but to answer your question, if you go on our Discord, and it's been a while since I've done any of my Solutions Architect type stuff, but I have a fair amount of material on Solutions Architect. I think it's up in presentations section. If you go to like presentations on our Discord, and then you go like way back. It's like way back, almost to the beginning, and you'll see my AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. Here's a bunch of questions and stuff that I wrote. Yeah, and then Colchis, yeah, you could set up a study group for sure. But these are ones and questions that I asked. They're a little dated, but honestly, most of the material's pretty similar. Oh, we have an error, but at least we're now working on a system that's being seen. So that's important. I expect the compression and the error to fail within at RD. I gotta focus on making that back to Drakit. That's not a big deal, right? That's not as big a deal for this kind of stuff. In fact, I might bother one of the other boxes with getting rebooted as well. So, all right. Let's force this one to shut down for now. See what the wife says for food, because we're almost on. The wife should be come back soon. Then we'll have some food and watch some shows and that kind of stuff. But yeah, guys, the Discord is always there for you to work on stuff. It's always there for you to get in and work with other people that are maybe doing something that's similar. Colchis, you'll be back in 2 weeks. Nice. Yeah, so, today we weren't working super hard, but you guys got to see me do a little bit of my research and stuff. I'm not doing any writing right now. I'll do some writing probably later on this week. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. I got to go do something for my college anyway, so I got to go fill out like an assignment real quick. I already did all the work on it. I just have to fill out and turn it in. So, do right now, in fact. That thing's due tonight, but it's we're 3 hours different, so I got to take the survey now. Um, uh, okay. Biggest blocker challenge right now. Need. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just typing something real quick in my other window. Yes. Am I on track with my timing plan? Yes. And then okay. All right, I got that all done. So that was my assignment. I just had to write up some answers to some questions I had. So, or to not questions I had, but let's real quick. Let's grep. Let's just cat nodes. Let's cat this one right here, which was the last. Let's do this one real quick. So our root was in at RamFS and our iPixie template was Dracut. So let's take some of these things. So for Rocky 12, let's say, and let's make sure that maybe some of these things are still configured correctly for this node. Let's go grab this over here. Boom. There's my template, right? There's my so he doesn't have any of these things, but it's nice that now his default hardware address has been added back in, so that's good. These are the other ones. I do need his root to be, so these two, so we're gonna say Y2Y, right? And we're gonna come down here and we're gonna hit P, right? So it'll be Dracut and it'll be that. His discoverable will also be now set to false as well. Oh, let's do this other thing with him where we also give him IP adder. That should all be correct. What? What? Oh, they have changed this command around. They've definitely changed this command around. Host file. And I could just restart this whole thing. Just restart the whole thing. Screw it. Let's go look at our node real quick. Rocky 12. He's got the default. He's got the right thing. iPixie is superseded by Dracut, which we need for him to boot. And let's give him the old college try again. So, yeah. So, anybody that's wondering, we're just kind of working on cleaning up the home lab, getting my systems where they'll boot again. Because I did put a brand new version of Werewolf on there with no concern to my original configs, so there was some formatting differences. So now we're trying to get one box back working while the other ones are all still up. However, they are sitting in a state where they wouldn't come back up if we, oh shoot, oh no, that's not good. Now we're back to this again. So that is not what I would have expected. Were any of these broken or superseded? Net mask and IP and hardware. No, those are all gateway. So something has changed in such a way that it won't boot. Let's take this off because I don't need that in there anymore. And let's try this. Restart werewolf. Restart our service. Let's see. This is the less glamorous side of setting up the home lab, right? Keeping everything running. Sometimes we got to get the individual nodes back working, but once we have this process down, it'll work for all the other ones too. So I'm just really doing a one-off right now, and then it'll feed back into the whole thing. So. He's not finding himself again. Alright, well. What is missing here? Alright, I'm gonna have to play with this. Alright guys, this will probably be where we call it here, because I know the wife's coming home soon too, but you guys are welcome to hang out down in the Discord. That's where most people kind of work around and figure this stuff out, and I'll probably post some stuff down there about what I did to fix this, just because sometimes people are interested. Sometimes people are interested if they're, you know, in here kind of invested in what I'm working on. So, yeah, I will see you guys later, and some of you guys I will be on, I'll be on during the week. My college class that I teach is on Tuesdays, so I will not always be around on Tuesdays, but yeah, I got a lot of good stuff done today, so this is pretty good.